Hello, 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 hello. My name is Lucius Wayne. Welcome back to this channel. Today is a bright new day. It's a bright new Sunday. Very happy so much because Sundays is always my time to study rockets, to study engineering, and also to see what is possible for us in this our continent, Africa. And today I'm going to talk about rockets. Uh, Today I'm going to talk about rockets because usually I'm an engineer and I love doing experiments or I love reading engineering. Uh, I've always been fascinated by Elon Musk. Elon Musk says that maybe in the next 5 years or maybe 10 years, that it will be possible for him to go to or maybe land the first humans in Mars. So this is just a great opportunity for those people who want to be rocket scientists or rocket engineers. There is a field for you here, and it's been said that there are few rocket scientists, and so when you study rocket science, I mean you are going to have some jobs because uh, in the next 10 years we'll be sending like rockets to go to Mars and establish a permanent base there. Yeah, you see, such a dream is fascinating. Imagine you being on a starship traveling to another planet. Hmm? You mean you're just flexing your muscles away from this earth, maybe just going to another planet to settle there. It will be such an adventure. Yeah. We humans, we have lived in this planet Earth for a couple of centuries. I mean, why not? It's it's such a good opportunity that uh, it's such a good opportunity for us in so many years that we are now capable of reaching outer space. Eh, Some last year there are some people who went to outer space. Jeff Bezos took some people to outer space. SpaceX has been taking people to the ISS. So it's an opportunity for those people who want to know about rockets or maybe study rocket science. There is an opportunity for you there, and I would uh, I would tell you to go for it because I'm also going for it. Yeah, my plan is to in the next maybe 5 years when I get chums, I would like to visit the outer space, maybe take some money or save up some money and then go and see how the world looks like from above. Also, the same as you should have such a aspiration and such dreams. Maybe in the next 20 to 30 years coming, someone would is going to design spaceships that is going to take us maybe not only to Mars but also to visit maybe Jupiter or maybe Uranus, the solar system generally. So today I'm going to discuss what is rockets. In the 20th and 21st century has brought so much developments, and it has enabled mankind to escape the vicinity of Earth to go into the outer space. So it's a great frontier that has mystified mankind since he looked up to the birds. He saw that the birds are flying, so they have become a commonplace on our everyday culture, and they are now becoming mainstream technologies. Even in movies, we have already seen their aspects. Yeah, maybe for example, one of my favorite movies. I think this movie for space. I've forgotten a bit of it, but it was for space like this. In video games, children, like this December that has passed, children are busy playing with these things, fatakra. I don't know how you call them, but I, these things that explode. I don't know. I'm tempted to call them small dynamites, but you can forgive me. I just don't know. So, uh, so the basic principle of rocket science must be easily explained to children. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. So it's a difficult subject, by the way. It's not easy because when you have already built rockets, you don't have time for testing them. So you must be accurate as possible. Any minute thing that happens, the rocket blows up, and that's millions of dollars that you have just lost in an instant. So we are going to. I'm going to tell you what is a rocket. So basically, rocket is a vehicle that transports cargo and people to the outer space. Yeah, in simple terms. Mm. So this is an achievement. Africa does not currently have a space program, but I look forward to seeing, not even seeing, but I always it's my inspiration to look at what the Americans or even Indians. By the way, Indians have are doing so much in the space space industry that they are also planning in around 2 years they are going to send people to the ISS. So they are really trying so much. So it's my dream that also Africa should strive and have a space program. So history of rockets. Rockets has just not started today. It has started. It started a long time ago, but it started from a primitive forms. You know, like 400 BC when before Christ. Uh, there are some writings of Gallius Aulus, someone who writes. He was a Greek individual from a city of Taretam, and that one was like some Italy. It was around some part of Italy. So this guy was experimenting something. So he used a wooden pigeon that he suspended some wires, and it was propelled by steam, and it was just let me call what it was just a primitive form. He used some steam, and because that was the Newton's law, the third law of motion, which means action and reaction. It was a means of propulsion, but that is where it started, from that primitive form until much 20 years later. The same principles apply to the same rocket, because when the rocket is traveling, it has to remove the exhaust propellants, and that removal of exhaust propellants makes it to have an opposite and equal reaction, so that when it is removing or exhausting the propellants, it creates a forward motion, hence the principle of Newton's third law. It's actually making rockets to work. So from 1800 to 1900 AD, so there is this British Admiral Sir Williams Convacha apparently seen ample rockets in the conflicts with India and had observation to task. What he had seen was some of the understandings and applications of rocketry for the British military. He carried on rocket experiments for this purpose. So those times in the 1800 to 1900 AD were periods of experimentals. They were experimenting with the fuels. They were experimenting with the small animals. Actually, there was in Russia there was this there were people who were they were putting monkeys into those rockets and sending them into the outer space, and then coming back to see if humans could actually survive in those vehicles. So there is this Russian school teacher, very famous Russian school teacher. He was called Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. He was born in Russia in 1857, and this is the guy who who at least pushed the rocket, who pushed the rocket development early. He was a mathematics teacher, and he had published so many articles known to the Russian economists. So the first of the book, one of the articles he published was the exploration of cosmic space by means of reaction devices. So this is the guy. Over the years he would publish hundreds of papers on the topic, and he noted that there were multi-stages rockets for comic rocket trains, and he's considered to be the father of modern astronautics, or maybe sometimes the Russians call him cosmonautics. And also there is this book also he wrote, The Modeling of Ships and Spacecraft, the Science and Art of Mastering the Oceans and the Sky. So there is this quote that he wrote. An author by the name Jules Verne said that, I do not remember how it got into my head to make the first calculation related to rockets. It seemed to me that the first seeds were planted by famous Fantasia J. Verne. So at that moment we started seeing so many other rocket scientists with famous equations such as Robert Goddard, and most of you realize most of these people, these rocket scientists, uh, the Russian guy, most of them, they were not so good in school. They were, some of their teachers said that they couldn't do what they wanted to do. But actually, when they went on their own, they went and made it. Actually, they are the people, they are the guys that we still look up to. Even scientists who are currently training to become rocket science, they must look at their equation so that they can come up with suitable designs. So this guy who is called Robert Goddard, he's the one who came up with the first successful liquid rocket engine. that made him one of the founders of rocket science. Imagine this guy just build a rocket with the with, the, with first of all it was the liquid propellant. You know, there were previous developments, but they were not quite successful. But him with this liquid propellant rocket, he became the one who's successful. So remember, the past rocket developments were from China and Russia. Before Americans didn't have their own rocket development. So around in 1930, the American Rocket Society was founded by someone called David Lesser and Edward Pendray and 10 others in the 1930s. So this society, its main aim was to promote public interest, to be interested in space travel. I imagine, I'm even feeling goosebumps. You know, space travel is such a fascinating adventure, like I said before. So during that time, Goddard moved his rocket test to New Mexico near Roswell, and he launched a rocket that reached over 800 kilometers per hour, over 600 meters in altitude. So soon, the Soviet guys also saw that the Americans were with their own space programs, and they both now started experimenting with the solid and liquid rocket engines. So this is also the time that there was the American Interplanetary Society they also launched a rocket. And before that, this is when the space race started. So we are kind of seeing the Soviet guys and the American people now building rockets and launching them into the outer spaces. And this was when the Russians launched, or the Soviet people launched the Sputnik 1. It was just a satellite that orbited the Earth, and it was sending something back to the Earth. So Sputnik 1 was the first spacecraft. The orbital spacecraft, and also it was a satellite that it was launched with the aim of going around the Earth. So from there, we are seeing now that Americans and the Soviet Union and other countries are launching rockets into the outer space. Some of them, even the Russians, launched. There was this person who went into space. He was the first one. I think it was Yuri Gagarin or somebody like that. So in July 16th, 1969, a Saturn V spacecraft launched Neil Armstrong, Edwin Buzz, and Adrian Michael Collins into space and to the moon. And that one, we are now seeing that NASA and Apollo 11 missions started to go towards the moon. And once reaching on the moon, Armstrong and Adrian descended in the lunar surface. By that a small module, they went down there, and they were the first humans to set foot on the moon. So we are beginning to see that rockets have come a long way, and the intricacies of rocket science and engineering were further refined during Apollo era, and long before they were handheld calculators, laptops, and smartphones. The computers that sent men towards to the moon. They were not so smart. I mean, they were even this my phone was just is just powerful today, but much more better than the computers that launched people to the moon. So we have really come a long way, and we are now seeing the countries are following suit. Indians, the Europeans, the Japanese, the Chinese. But what what I'm not no, let me say that it's bad for us that even Africans don't have even a single space program. Maybe it was just the other day that Ugandans launched a satellite into the space. But not why not us? Why not us? What are we lacking that we can't have that spirit of adventure in Africa? I think we are just punis, you know. We are just punis, and our governments I don't want to invest in such things. No, they don't give it so much importance to them. That's why. Even someone like me, when I get an opportunity, where will I go? I will just go to US and experiment with those things. I wouldn't stay in this puny Africa. Just go there and experiment with these things. Find those Americans who are best in it, merge them and build such things for people to enjoy. So these rockets also, there have been several accidents. The famous space shuttle that was reusable. Actually, the Challenger. The space shuttle Challenger that exploded in 1986, killing all the crew. Also, space shuttle Columbia exploded. They killing people. So it's a risky adventure, and then like I said, to be a rocket scientist is you have no margin of error. I mean, when you are designing your vehicles, you have just to be very careful, and there is no time to test these rockets. The time you can just get to test them is when they are on the air, and once something happens, it explodes, or when something happens and the rocket has a problem, you have lost millions of dollars. And I come to think that is why Africans cannot participate in such programs, because it costs a lot of money. But that is just but that is just an excuse. If the Indians are now doing it, why not us? When we cannot pull some few resources and start even a small program, maybe. But do you know, even in Kenya we have a space program, but we have never even launched even a single rocket. That thing is based in somewhere in Mombasa. Yeah. So even the Chinese are very aggressive. You see, nowadays they have their own space programs. Even they have their own space station. Hey, Bwana, those people are aggressive, and I've heard them saying that they are going to reach the moon before Americans. but I hope the Americans will do it before the Chinese. So please, Elon Musk, can you do whatever you are doing so that we get there before the Chinese? But you know what is annoying is that there is this thing called the FAA that is taking too slow to approve even the most basic launches that SpaceX have done the past year. Actually, 2021 was one of the years that SpaceX had achieved so much with their program. So the other space agencies that are coming up, the European Space Agency, that one is for Europe. Also, they are designing one of their rockets. And France also has their own space program. It's international, Spatico something. Indian Space Research Organization, the one I was saying for India. Imagine even the Iranian Space Agency, they have on their own space program. Israeli Space Agency, Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, Japan. China, National Space Administration, that one is for China. And then NASA. NASA has achieved so many things. I love that organization. I mean, these guys just come up. They just wake up one day and say, we just want to make a satellite that this satellite is going to visit the solar system. Even there is this one that I've been tracking. It's called the Bepi Colombo. This spacecraft is going towards Mercury, but it is estimated that it will reach Mercury in 2024. Mercury is just it's not far, but you see, when this spacecraft wants to go to Mercury, it has to go around Venus, around the sun for it to break effectively. Because you know, when you cannot just send the spacecraft direct to Mercury because of the sun influences. The sun has gravity. So when the spacecraft is traveling, it will increase in speed. So by the time actually you are aiming at Mercury, you are going to approach at a very high speed, and you might actually not get to enter into orbit of that planet. So that's why it takes a long period of time. It was launched back in 2019. So you might wonder, why is this spacecraft taking so long to reach that planet, and yet the planet is just almost some a few kilometers away from us. So rocket science is such a fascinating subject, and I love it because it gives me goosebumps. It gives me hope that one day we are going to reach Alpha Centauri, or maybe we are going to conquer other star systems. Maybe not in my lifetime, but maybe my children can reach. But I hope maybe I can get to reach Mars. That has been my goal. So until next Sunday again, when we'll be discussing about rockets. It's been nice discussing this subject with you, because actually I don't see any other person interested in rockets. But I would urge young people, those people who are going to universities, or make it a point to study rocket science, because when you become a rocket scientist, you actually, number one, you'll find jobs. Actually, number two is it's a career that is worth fascinating, because I mean, in the next 20 to 50 years, we'll be colonizing other planets, e.g. Mars. So you'll have jobs and you'll have time to experiment with your designs. So until next Sunday again, my name is Lucius Wayne. We'll be discussing rockets again. Thank you.